Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video, and in this video we're going to be covering Noahreyli and Guild Hen go at it in realistic 1v1s, and we're going to be breaking down every single fight for you on this YouTube channel. If you have any questions after the video, please leave them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. Without further ado, let's get started. The biggest thing that I want you guys to realize right away is the fact that these guys are making good peaks. These guys have good fundamentals, and we're going to be really looking at not mechanics, because that's something that's really hard to replicate, right? It's the fundamental, the decisions that they're making. Even if they're not fully invested in this 1v1, you can find that their habits are going to show, and I think that's something that we can learn from. If we can just draw a graph in terms of spacing, right? Because spacing is a concept that's never talked about in Fortnite, even though it's a concept that's very prevalent in every single shooter game. So let's draw a graph, right? So this is positive and minus, right? And so this is HP difference, so down here, and then here is spacing, right? The physical distance between you and your opponent. If you have an HP advantage, you need to be reducing the space, right? You need to have very little distance between you and your opponent. And if you are losing on HP, right, it is advantageous for you to space away. Now, this sounds like common sense, right? So the graph would look something like this. So just ignore the graph for a second. Speaking in words, it really is just the simple fact that if you're winning the fight and you're up 150 HP and he hasn't scratched you at all, you need to make the space very minimal, because you want to end the fight right then and there. But you know, if there is no HP difference, I want you to sort of run away and make the space as much as possible, because of the simple fact that you're losing the fight. Simple fact, one-on-ones, right? Your spacing is related to, you know, HP difference, because that sort of dictates whether or not you're winning the fight. So it's a very simple concept. Now look at the middle, right? So when there's no HP difference at all, notice this. I'm not telling you to go close, right? Just because the fight is tied and no one has an HP advantage, you guys are both 200 HP and 200 HP, does not necessarily mean you just jump in the box, right? You still need to have some sort of respectable distance, because you don't want to get one pumped and you don't want to just take a random volatile trade, right? You want to just go for something that's like chip damage. That'll start the momentum for you in the fight, where you can then jump in on the second shot. And that's the biggest thing that I want to show you guys right away, just because of this, right? So if we go back a little bit, I'll show you an example. So let's actually just start the fight from the beginning. Later on, you will see an example of exactly the concept that I outlined. I want you to notice the shift in spacing that happens after Noahreyli takes damage or does damage to Hen. So that's the first thing that we're going to recognize, and I want you guys to sort of remember this in fights, because I think this will help a lot. So immediately 1.5 to 2 boxes of distance between Noahreyli and Hen, because he's going for chip damage. Just create that spark, that momentum that you can build upon and start playing aggressive after that, right? So obviously they're still going for shots, they're still going for trades, but you really want to make sure that you're spacing yourself a little bit further to begin with. Watching the same part again, excuse the quality. Hit him 91, right? Now we're gonna move in. We're gonna make the space a little bit closer, because now that's advantageous for us, right? If I were to force the 50-50 with a 91 HP advantage, that would be better for me, right? So like, he doesn't necessarily need to 50-50, because in my personal opinion, I think you should jump in the box around like 150 HP advantage. So he doesn't have that yet. So let's just like make a peak now. Now it's like half a box of distance, right? You're not in the box yet, but that's half the box. So that graph that I mentioned before, right? This graph is essentially what you want to think of. And if you don't think visually and you just want it in a sentence, the bigger the HP advantage positively for you, you need to space closer, end the fight. And then if you're lower and you're losing the fight, run away. Make it 3 boxes, 4 boxes, and try to play away from them and fix that HP advantage before you take that next trade. In other words, heal. Just off the first 40 seconds, we can just learn that right away. We're going to learn a lot more in this video, guys, and I think that's something that you guys are going to like. The biggest thing that Noahreyli understands is, you know, I think a lot of pros understand this, is that gun swap delay exists in the game. So one of the things that you can do is you can piece control and then insta reset. And the faster you can do this, there's no limit to it, right? Whereas, you know, editing and then going for a shot, there is a minimum time invested for you to do that. So for example, when he goes for piece control right here, right, gets the left wall, right wall, and then tries to reset, that can be done as fast as you want it to be done. You can always go for a quick, you know, piece and then reset. Good shot. Now think about the graph, right? You want to space a little bit closer now. So look, Noahreyli's aggressing. He's going faster and faster, and he's getting closer because he wants to. He doesn't want, number one, he doesn't want Hen to heal, because that would not be good for him. You didn't actually do anything with the advantage that you had. So now Hen actually gets some damage back. The HP is even again. Hen takes the advantage and turns it around by playing around the build. I think it's very simple, honestly. If we want to break down why Noahreyli lost this fight, good cones to cover his approach upwards. Hen does a good job. Whenever you want to heal, if you can secure height advantage, that's going to be really good, because then you're going to buy a lot of time. You can also go for chip damage as they're coming up. Noahreyli obviously understands that he can just build himself, you know, very safely on his way up, but Hen buys a lot of time doing this, so that's all right. So the biggest thing is that he's going to want to pressure here. So doesn't get the wall. So now let's talk about it. So every time you play on this ramp like this, it's actually really awkward. It's not a good angle to approach the box from. So he goes for a really like ego peek. One of the things that Noahreyli should understand, I think, is that if he misses the shot, he's gonna have a hard time getting out, because Hen actually places this wall right here. Noahreyli goes for the shot, but Hen places that left wall, and then Noahreyli bounces off of it. Now, biggest thing to understand, is Noahreyli shotgun on cooldown? When I say cooldown, it's just like he can't shoot yet. He has to sort of wait for that fire rate to recycle. And while that's happening, Hen, understanding that because he can hear the shotgun shot, is going to make an edit again and look back at Noahreyli. So that's where the first shot comes from. And then the second shot is on this left wall that Hen placed earlier. So that was actually, you know, pretty in-depth. I think there's a lot of things that happen here, and Hen actually does a really good job of going out to the side and changing his approach of attack, right? And I think one of the things that a lot of people fail to do is, as soon as you make one edit on a wall, where is Noahreyli's crosshair placed? It's placed literally right here. I think it's super important to understand that if you want to throw off your enemy's crosshair placement, change your angle. Like, that's why Hen goes around, edits from here, and that's a really good habit to do. So let's watch this first trade, right? If we look at this first trade that happens in the next fight, I think we can learn a lot from this as well. So he actually does around 50 damage back to him. It would be better for Noahreyli to heal here, and the biggest reason is he took 100 damage. If you really pay attention to the HP bar, and you should be doing this during fights, because if you're not doing this, what are you basing your decisions off of? Now, unfortunately, in Fortnite, you don't actually have the luxury of seeing health bars on top of the enemy. So what you need to be doing is tracking their HP. It's one of those things that you should be keeping mental tabs on. And in this case, you hit him for 50, but you took 100 damage. So in this case, it's better to take a step back because you're losing on HP, and really just make sure you pop those heals. Going for nice angles again, spacing, right? Like making sure you're not just jumping in right away, because you don't really have an advantage. Now, pretty good peek by Hen, and I think this is something that Unknown Army does back in the day. If you really want to watch it, we can watch it back. Is this edit, and then the swing, the hard swing, really horizontal movement, and it's really hard to aim that way. But the biggest reason why this works is because if you pay attention, Noahreyli accidentally shoots here. Not even accidentally, goes for a shot, but then this edit comes along. And I think Hen does this because he hears the shot, and it's actually really, really well played. That was a nice reset by Hen, actually. Hen understands that Noahreyli's crosshairing him and tries to catch the shot right here. You see this? So he edited, reset, and does a feint, and then tries to place the wall and edit again. And then Noahreyli understands this, does what, you know, what's called, as Destiny Jesus called it, exit control. Just place the wall, just so that Hen can't place it, and then you actually have edit privileges to make your way out. Now, the one thing you have to worry about is this wall on the side, on the right, that could be coming in. Okay, but the biggest thing is, like, you have another cone. So if, you know, Hen makes a crazy play and actually gets this wall too, you just flip this cone and then do the exact same thing until you get out. That was a good attempt to free fire. Does the same sort of angle. So let's talk about what's going on here. And I don't think this is a good idea by Hen. I know he has HP advantage, and a significant one at that, but this is why Hen is actually losing the fight right here. So that was a nice attempt at pre-fire, and the biggest reason why Noahreyli is going for stuff at this point is because he understands that Hen is not going to let him heal. First of all, I actually don't even think he has heals in the first place. Even if he had minis, I think going for pre-fires and some sort of damage back is going to make that HP advantage back to even, just so he can pop heals. And then the biggest reason why Hen should not go for this trade on the next time, let's think about what's happening here, right? Noahreyli goes out to the right, which in Hen's case, it would be his left. And every time you have to loop around the left, think about what's happening, right? You're naturally creating right-hand peaks for yourself. Hen is going counterclockwise to try to get this shot off on Noahreyli. And the biggest problem with that is Noahreyli has a right-hand peak on him. Just like this, right? So Noahreyli understands that he has a right-hand peak on this edge right here. And I think the biggest reason why Hen tries to take it is because of his Noahreyli's HP. But even then, I don't think it's that good against a good player like Noahreyli. So Noahreyli does really good damage, and even moves even further back while going for the spray to avoid the shotgun. At this point, it just really comes down to who gets the next hit. That was really, really, really good movement by Hen. So watch this again, and then I'll break it down on the third run. Do you see that? So obviously, like, whenever you're against a right hand peek, if you want to take the trade, especially if you know an edit just happened, so Noahreyli just edited. This is really where gun swap delay comes into play, right? So Noahreyli just edited, and now look at his gun, right? His gun is in the air. And I think the biggest reason why Hen understands, like, you can just go for a trade right now, is Hen is sitting in this box with his gun out already. Biggest thing that he can do is strafe to the left, his left, and actually look at Noahreyli, right? And that's going to sort of mitigate Noahreyli's right hand peek. If Hen wants to counteract this movement and move to Hen's left, you're sort of mitigating that right hand peek. You're sort of removing it from the person, and as long as the person doesn't expect it, you can actually get a shot off and then do some sort of reset or whatever play you want to do after. And that's what Hen is doing, and that's a really nice peek. So far so good, right? 3 fights, and this is the stuff that you can learn. If you sort of think back to that chart at the very beginning of the video in terms of spacing, no one has an advantage. So we're just going to play a little bit distant, you know, 1 to 2 boxes away, and look for that chip damage. This video might be released in chapter 3. It might be released during the blackout. I don't really know. But next time you have a chance to hop on Fortnite, try this in Soul Arena. Come back to me and tell me how it works, because spacing is the name of the game. The importance of spacing in Fortnite is actually underappreciated, and I think a lot of people, the only way you're gonna like really appreciate it is if you actually go and try it out for yourself, and then you'll notice the amount of fights you're winning, right? So Noahreyli's losing here. He needs to pop heals, but Hen is gonna do his best job to sort of not let him do that. That was a really nice peek by Noahreyli. So that's the way he sort of like equalized this position and sort of let the fight get back to an even state. So now, since the fight's at an even state, they're gonna space again, right? They're not gonna like jump in. They're not gonna play really close with one wall in between them. They're gonna really try to play different. Now, right? Like, now that Noahreyli has hit him 121, this is where you sort of want to play super aggressive and almost get in right away. So Noahreyli hit him 121, then hit him 61. He currently is like a super HP advantage. One of the biggest things that Noahreyli has to do here is just pressure. Do not let him heal, right? So Noahreyli's pressuring and moving forward, and he's being careful enough, right? You don't have to jump in and kill yourself right there. The spacing is somewhat decent, but that was just an ego peak in my personal opinion, where Noahreyli just takes the 50-50 primarily because it's realistic. It's totally not encouraged in like high elo lobbies where you know someone else has good aim. Obviously, in a situation where you have HP advantage, that's something that you can justify it with, in my personal opinion. HP advantage is huge now, right? This is big. So now he needs to pressure. So he's just preventing the heals. Hen is desperately trying to get minis off, right? And I think Noahreyli understands the only way Hen really gets back into this fight is by getting a hit, and unfortunately that's exactly what happens. God damn it. This is where you can listen, and if you listen, you can tell what sort of heals they have popped. You can hear floppers, you can hear medkits, you can hear bigs, and you can hear minis. You can actually track all of these things and make it a habit. It's not something deep. It's something instinctual that should come over time. Now the spacing has gone back to equal, like where you want to space 1 to 2 boxes away to get that chip damage, to create that advantage. Hen has the advantage. Hen's going to try to jump in. Noahreyli equalizes it by doing a very nice trick. So let's watch the trick. So the trick really is to place the floor and edit, but this is more of like a gimmicky surprise trick. It's more of like a, you didn't expect it, right? I'm taking advantage of the fact that you didn't expect it. Try to do it here and there, but don't make it a fundamental part of your fighting. I think Hen has no mats here. Yeah, Hen has no mats here. He's going for desperate stuff, which to me signals that he doesn't have mats. Next fight. Good piece control. And gets a 50 damage start on Noahreyli. Really good movement and edit. I think he did hit him there. So now 50 HP advantage on Hen. This is why Hen is playing slightly defensively, right? It's not that big of an HP advantage, but it is something. Hen trades back 50 damage, and then right here, this is where like an awkward situation. So I want you to notice where Noahreyli's crosshair is placed right here. It's placed right here. There's 2 main reasons as to why you want to place it to the left. First is that when you do move to the right to create that right hand peak, your crosshair is going to get aligned by itself so that you actually have minimal mouse movement to do on your end. The second reason is when you look to the left, like say your crosshair is placed here, you can actually see more of this area. That's how third person works. Every time you want to go for a right hand peak, look a little bit more to the left, and you'll actually get more information. Okay, so let's say there's a scenario where there's a guy boxed up in a box like this, right? These are floors, and you're standing right here, and there's a guy in here. Let's say you smack on this wall and then you make a wide edit, right? Let's say you make an edit like this, right? And you're trying to find the guy in the box. You should place your crosshair right here. You're trying to find him in the box while being behind cover first. And I think once you know where he is, that's when you press D or, you know, right on your joystick to move over to the right and then line your crosshair up using movement and not your aim keys. But he doesn't get the hit off there. Trapped under cone, so it's a little bit awkward. Hand gets the break. Noahreyli goes for a shot, then place, because the shotgun's already up, so you might as well go for the shot. You know, and then does a really, this impresses me the most. This part is really impressive. So not only does he successfully like backward jumps out of the box, he hits the nice edit as well that exposes Hen, but he like lands on top, which is like not that hard to do, but it's pretty hard to do consistently and pretty fast at the way that Noahreyli did it. Let's say you didn't do that and you fell right into the box. If you miss your shot, you are dead. Okay, and that's the biggest problem. Whereas if you play it the way Noahreyli did it, and you jumped out of the box, if you missed your shot, you were fine because you just reset and you move on. So this is the thing with spacing, right? This is why you don't want to commit to a kill if they're not 1 HP. This is another topic, but I think a lot of people like really fall into this trap of not taking 50-50s, right? I personally think 50-50s are good, but they're not really 50-50s. I don't think it's a good name. So 50-50s in my definition is when you take a 200 HP versus 200 HP jump in, and that's a 50-50. If you have a significant HP advantage and they're 20 HP and you like place a ramp and exploit into their box and jump in and create a 50-50, you're not going to get one pumped. Hits him right there. It moves a little bit to the left. That's what I was talking about. He moves over to the left to create that, you know, non-right hand peek, because that's what Hen was trying to do. Hen was trying to get a right hand peek on him, but if you move to the left to counteract it, then there's no more peek anymore. That's what he does again, right? As soon as the edit comes in, moves over to the left, sort of cancel out that right hand peek. Because all of these details, guys, like it's not something you think actively while you're fighting. Obviously no one thinks that much when Noahreyli's playing here. He's just playing, like he's not actually like thinking the way that I am thinking, but these things are ingrained in him, right? These are things that are like instinctual. I think you should try to play instinctual. You shouldn't try to think of it over and over and over while you're fighting, especially in a tournament. So the way you get all this theory in your head is you practice it to a point where it becomes automatic, where you can autopilot and it still does these things. You still automatically do these things. I mean, that's the amount of practice you're gonna need. Like that's one of the things you're probably thinking is like, damn, man, like how many hours do I have to put in to make it autopilot all these like complicated things? Like, that's the question. How many hours are you willing to really put in to do this, right? Like it takes a while, and this is why Noahreyli and Hen are really good, is because they have put in the hours. So he has him full box, holds the floor, and then okay, so this is what I was talking about, right? And so holds the floor to keep Hen trapped in the box, and then just sits still right here. And this is important, right? This is very important. Remember the concept that I talked about earlier, right? So Noahreyli has the right hand peek. Hen is probably going to move to his left. Hen is sitting right here at the moment, right? In Hen's best interest, or at least a play that he could make, is move to his left or Noahreyli's right and try to set it up so that Noahreyli doesn't have a right hand peek. The truth is, Noahreyli's just sitting still because he's expecting Hen to do this, right? So if Hen does this and Noahreyli's just not moving, Noahreyli can actually still have the right hand peek on him. If Noahreyli instead elected to move right and then Hen does the play that I'm talking about and moves to his left, there will not be a right hand peek. There will only be a right hand peek for like a small fraction of a second. Let's say there's someone in this box, right? And then you walk up to like right here and then you swing on them, okay? And then in that case, you're expecting them to make a play. You're expecting them to like either run away, right? Or make an edit on you, right? If they make this edit on you and then you're preemptively already standing this deep all the way in the back left corner, and they're all the way over here, you can actually still see them and they won't be able to see you. Try this out with a friend. Like go into creative, move all the way to the left, and then have them try to like counter your right hand by moving to their left. Yeah, there we go. It's happening. Oh, perfect example. I'm actually so happy this played out the way it did, because this fight right here, guys, this is the most important lesson of this whole entire video. You could see that Noahreyli understands, like you could see that Noahreyli understands this concept because he's just perfectly positioning to the left and just waiting for Hen to make the mistake, because Hen can't go anywhere. But watch it one more time and I think you guys will appreciate this concept a lot. I'm so happy actually that this fight played out the way it did. Not only was this really mechanically good, by the way, that was really impressive. Good pre-fire there as well. The biggest thing I want you to also realize, small detail, instead of just flicking up to the right, because sometimes you'll miss this, right? Like, it'll actually be difficult to hit this small sliver of the wall. Get in the habit of pulling out your blueprint, because look at where Noahreyli's crosshair is, right? He's not actually looking at the wall at all. He just pulls out his blueprint instead. I think controller players should do this, because controller players can't flick. I mean, that's beside the point. They don't even have scroll wheel reset in the first place. So controller players should totally pull out blueprint way more. PC players should do it too, but it's not as important. This is just amazing example of movement, and I don't think you guys understand how much I love movement. Like, clips that show good movement is something that impresses me a lot. Let's talk about this, right? Hen chops him out. Noahreyli does not want to take the 50-50 trade where he like crosshairs and then whoever shoots first will just win. So he's just holding ramp, but it's a little bit awkward because he's not facing anything that he could like put his crosshair on and then use it to place the ramp. But I think it should place anyways. Yeah, so he looks down. He should look down at the grass and then it'll work. Places it, flips it. Catches Hen's shot, and then because he caught that shot, he notices it, right? That's why he goes for the counter shot, because he knows Hen's shotgun is not ready. That's why he does it. He's paying attention, right? And then that's why he goes for the shot. Unfortunately, Hen owns the ramp, because Hen looked at this wall and placed a backwards ramp. Now, because Hen edited the ramp is now one pickaxeable, right? So you can actually just pickaxe it once, it'll break, and you can probably place your own ramp. And that's exactly what Noahreyli does. He's holding the ramp to try to see if he shoots. Waits until he looks away. So let's look at the timing of the edit, actually. It's pretty fast, right? Crosshair not on him. Okay, good. Hen's crosshair is right here. And so then, in this case, Noahreyli should edit, right? Because there's no danger in doing so. He tries to edit, gets wall and ramp piece controlled, and then immediately jumps down, which is really nice. And then takes the ego 50-50. That's the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's more of a long video, and I think that you guys should enjoy it and learn a lot from it, because pretty much, not everything, but most of what I know about fighting is in this video, right? It's about spacing, it's about angles, and moving to the left to counteract right-hand peaks, moving to the left in general to just create your own right-hand peaks, and just like all these little details summed up into one will help your fighting a lot. So if you watch this video, please hit the thumbs up, especially if it helped you. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.